All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack a story that stretches over 4 decades, looking at a relationship that has had some, well, let's just say some dizzying highs and some pretty devastating lows. This is the story of two neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan, locked in this incredibly complex dance.
At its core, this whole thing is a story of a relationship being pulled into totally opposite directions. On one side of the coin, you have these intense rivals fueled by old arguments over borders and some really bitter trade wars. But then, on the other side, you get these moments of honestly surprising alliance, born out of shared threats or sometimes just simple acts of humanity.
So that really makes you ask, right? Were they friends or were they foes? But, maybe that's the wrong question to be asking in the first place. The real story, the interesting part, is about why and when they were forced to act like one or the other. It creates this pattern that's way more fascinating than just slapping a simple label on it.
To really get this roller coaster, we have to rewind all the way back to the very beginning, to 1947, the year Pakistan was created. And let's just say things got off to a very rocky start.
Get this. When Pakistan applied to join the United Nations, only one country on the entire planet voted against it. Just one. And that country was Afghanistan. Now, this wasn't just some symbolic move. It was really the first major sign of the deep-seated tensions that would define their relationship for years to come.
And that UN vote? Yeah, that wasn't a one-off thing. It was basically the opening shot in a long period of mistrust, where political arguments just kept spilling over and causing economic and strategic problems.
A perfect example of this is the whole dispute over the Karachi port. So Afghanistan is a landlocked country, right? It needs access to the sea for trade, and it asked to use the port. Pakistan said, okay, sure, but on one condition. Well, Afghanistan refused to accept that political condition. The result? Pakistan denied access, and a crucial economic lifeline was cut, all because of politics.
And this tension, it went way beyond just economics. When a regional defense pact was being formed with Iran and Turkey, Pakistan invited Afghanistan to come on board. Afghanistan said no, and they were super clear about why. They just weren't going to join a military alliance with a country they had such major political beef with.
So for almost 20 years, the relationship was pretty much defined by this coldness. But then, in 1965, during a moment of absolute crisis for Pakistan, something completely unexpected happened.
So here's the crucial part. When Pakistan went to war with India in 1965, it was facing a terrifying possibility, a war on two fronts. Pakistan was incredibly vulnerable on its western border with Afghanistan. But Afghanistan, they gave them silence. And in that moment, that silence was absolutely everything. By just choosing to stay neutral, Afghanistan handed Pakistan a massive strategic gift. It allowed Pakistan to focus all its military power on the Eastern Front. This was a moment where doing nothing spoke louder than any treaty ever could. And this unspoken act of support, it dramatically thawed that icy relationship and really set the stage for a whole new era.
Building on that newfound goodwill, the relationship pretty soon hit a new high point. And this time it wasn't driven by politics or war, but by a shared sense of humanity.
So, a few years after the war, tragedy struck. Afghanistan was hit by a really devastating earthquake, and it left so many people in desperate need of help.
And who was one of the first countries to respond? You guessed it, Pakistan. The aid that came pouring across the border was significant, and it really cemented this period as a true peak in their relationship. It was one of those rare moments where helping each other completely overshadowed decades of political fights.
But you know how it goes. That peak wasn't going to last forever. As the 1970s came to an end, the entire region was thrown into chaos by the arrival of a superpower. And this kicked off the final and by far the most complex phase of this 41-year story. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 just completely flipped the script. All of a sudden, Pakistan found itself in this really bizarre position. On one hand, it became a crucial ally to the Afghan resistance fighters, the Mujahideen. But at the exact same time, its relationship with the official Soviet-backed government in Kabul just completely fell apart.
What happened next turned the region into a classic proxy war. Pakistan was now simultaneously an ally to the Afghan people who were fighting the invasion and an enemy to their official government. This dual role created these deep, complicated issues and a lasting instability that would echo for decades.
So what do we make of all this? When you look back from that one single vote of dissent at the UN to a strategic silence that saved a nation, from closed ports to open arms after a tragedy, This relationship has just been this wild cycle of conflict and cooperation. And it leaves us with one crucial question. Was this turbulent pattern, this constant swinging between mistrust and necessity, destined to just repeat itself over and over again?